And we'll share the screen. All right. Okay, so the topic I picked today was seasonal allergies, because if you're anywhere in the Midwest, you're probably feeling these right now. And it's a topic that hits close to home for me just because I had problems with allergies for a really long time. I mean, I still do occasionally, but it's definitely a lot better managed. I used to be a kind of person that I would take Claritin every morning to wake up, and would take a Benadryl every night to be able to sleep through the night and be able to breathe while I was laying down. So that's been tremendously changed for me since starting to get chiropractic care and decreasing the number of food allergens that I'm taking in, which we're going to kind of get to that later on. But basically what it comes down to is when you decrease your allergenic load, your symptoms will be mitigated to the point where you don't need medication as much, only for emergencies, hopefully. And the other thing is once you get your digestion better, you can actually break down histamine better on your own, which, as a lot of you know, allergies are mostly mediated by histamine production. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go over first just common allergies. Allergy symptoms, I mean, these are what everybody's used to with seasonal allergies as far as hay fever goes, anything from eczema, itchy nose, congestion, puffy eyes, sneezing, things of that nature. So these allergies are controlled usually by two different kinds of antibodies. So antibodies are parts of your immune system that attack foreign invaders, or at least tag the foreign invaders to be attacked by other immune cells. So there's IgE and IgG, which we're going to go over. But what allergies basically are is they're a hypersensitivity reaction due to poor immune system modulation. So what that means is that your immune system is overwhelmed. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's overactive or underactive. It just means that it's not dealing with stress very well, because obviously you shouldn't be reacting to everything in a normal environment. If you are reacting to all these things in your normal environment, then it's because your immune system is not modulated properly. And usually all of the stuffy nose, puffy eyes kind of symptoms are caused by a release of histamine, which is the main molecule that is associated with allergies. So to kind of go over the two different kinds of antibodies, we have IgE, which is basically, we'll say the evil ones, because this is what causes the anaphylactic reactions that people have to go to the hospital for. So these are things that come on immediately after you're introduced to something, let's say you are allergic to strawberries really bad, you eat a strawberry, your face swells up, your tongue swells up, you got to go get an epinephrine shot to take it down a notch. So that's why they're the evil ones, because they're usually the life-threatening ones. Okay, so on the other side here, we have the IgG allergies, which are definitely less well-known. So the tricky thing with IgG is a lot of times you don't know what's causing the reaction. So this could be you ate something over the weekend that you're allergic to, and you don't actually get the symptoms until Thursday, because it takes a little bit longer for these ones to form and for them to act. So these are a delayed onset reaction, very difficult to detect without specific blood lab testing. They're actually the most common form of food sensitivity, because a lot more people have allergies than are actually realizing that they have allergies, because everybody just assumes oh, I get introduced to it and I'm going to have a reaction immediately, when that's really not the case. The most common is to have a delayed reaction. So I can definitely attest to this, because I took very thorough food journals of different things and just noticed that if I had some kind of epic cheat meal over the weekend, I wouldn't feel bad that weekend. I would feel bad later in the week. So that's definitely very common. And I know it seems like I'm getting off track talking about food allergies when I told you guys I was going to talk about seasonal allergies, but the two are actually very, very tied together, because allergies is, like I said earlier, just a state of your immune system. So if the state of your immune system is that you're reacting to things in your normal environment, you're going to be reacting to food as well as outdoor allergies. So you hardly ever have one without the other. Okay. And so the other funny thing about IgG is it affects multiple organ systems in your body. So it's not like you're only going to get stomach pain or you're only going to get congestion. You could have anything from foot swelling to like your knee flaring up that always bugs you, to headaches, to blood sugar crashes. The list is very, very long for things that you can experience from an IgG allergy. And I will say that the funny thing about a lot of lab tests as well is, like, some doctors will only run IgE, some will run IgG, and some will actually go even further and run another one called IgA. So, you know, if you took a panel and your doctor said, oh, you're not allergic to anything, you might want to consider what kind of antibodies they were testing, because, you know, not everybody's going to have the IgE kind. And the other irritating thing about lab tests is if you haven't eaten that food in a really, really long time, or you haven't been exposed to that like pollen in a really, really long time, it might not necessarily show up on that test, because your body only makes antibodies near when you've been exposed to it. So let's say like you gave up wheat a really long time ago and then you go get an allergy test done. That might not show up that you're allergic to wheat because you haven't eaten it in such a long time. So this stuff is only going to show up if you've been exposed to it, for the most part. Okay, so going back to talking about your threshold of being able to handle food allergies, okay? So let's say we have the green zone on this graph. That's like your toxic load, i.e. your food reactions, your environmental exposure, drugs, stress, pests, dust, mold, over-exercise. Anything that's going to throw your immune system for a loop can be put in this toxic load category. Okay, so as you can imagine, the toxic load that you can handle is probably going to change at different times in your life. So I'll give you an example. Like when I was in undergrad, I didn't feel a lot of these symptoms until I went to graduate school. So the difference being, in graduate school, obviously I had more stress, I had more things going on, I was further away from my family, a lot of things that were adding to my toxic load that actually made my symptoms worse. So the key is getting your toxic load as low as possible so that you kind of have more room for error before you have a lot of these miserable symptoms. As you can see here, the green graph, no symptoms. The red graph is when you're miserable and you need to take a bunch of over-the-counter medication. So that red area is when you get that undermodulated immune system where you're just reacting to things that you're not supposed to react to. So let's say I'm at like a really, really good time in my life where I'm like not super stressed out. Maybe I don't react to gluten in those times. Okay, but let's say something really stressful happens, like something happens with your family, something happens with your job, that might push you into the red zone, and then you might start reacting to things like gluten more aggressively just because of what's going on in your life at that time. So a lot of this can be tracked back to, you know, different hormone levels like cortisol and the state of your gut environment, because your gut environment changes based on your emotional stress, chemical stress, and physical stress. So where you're at on this graph is going to change throughout your life, basically, is what I'm trying to get across. The key is if you don't want to have to take medications, do as much as possible to keep yourself in the green zone. And that might require doing like allergy testing, doing food diaries, figuring out what you're reactive to, and just minimizing your exposure to those things. You know, maybe not letting the cat sleep on the pillow, things of that nature. Okay, so some underlying issues that I address that can really increase your allergies. So one of these is going to be adrenal fatigue, because there's a hormone called cortisol that when it becomes too high in your system, it really messes with your immune system. So that's why your adrenal glands and keeping those happy and keeping your stress levels modulated is important for decreasing your allergy symptoms. Second of all, there are gut infections or leaky gut or just poor digestion or diet that can increase your allergy symptoms. So as I mentioned at the beginning, you can increase your digestion capabilities, and that will actually help you break down histamine faster and more efficiently. The one thing that breaks down histamine in the body mostly is the HCl, so the hydrochloric acid in your stomach. So if you're deficient in hydrochloric acid, then you're always going to suffer from allergies because there's nothing to break down the histamine that's being produced in your system. So that's a huge one. And then, like I said, just poor diet. So if you're constantly eating things that are gonna just irritate your digestive system, like a lot of processed foods or sodas or sugar, a lot of those can contribute to not being able to break down histamine as well. Another good part is your liver. So if your liver's been kind of overloaded from like medications for years and years and years, or alcohol, or maybe you were exposed to some heavy metals in your water, I mean, there's a ton of things that can affect your liver, right? But if your liver is not detoxifying as efficiently as possible, that's going to be another factor where your body's not going to be able to process the histamine and get rid of the byproducts. And so those are just going to build up in your system and make your allergies worse and worse and worse with age. We already went through poor immune modulation, and your immune system is such a complex organ that is influenced by so many things. Like I had said, with the cortisol hormone is huge for immune modulation. Anybody that has an autoimmune condition is going to have poor immune modulation, because obviously if your body's attacking its own tissue, then it's attacking things that it's not supposed to on a regular basis. So it's probably going to be reacting to things in your environment as well. So there's a lot of things you can do to help out your immune system, from addressing things like your gut environment, your diet, your stress, and there's a lot of nutrients that you can use to help out as well, but I'm going to go into the nutrients a little bit towards the end of the lecture. And I did want to add in lymph drainage as well. So lymph is kind of the gunk of the body. It's like the waste products, if you will. So every muscle, every organ in your body is going to produce lymph, because that's like the trash. That's the used molecules. Unfortunately, when you're very sedentary, you're not moving a lot, or your spine is out of alignment and your muscles aren't balanced properly, your body's not able to pump that junk out of your system. Okay, so as you can imagine, so let's say that histamine is a junk product and it's sitting around and your body's not pumping it out and getting rid of it like it's supposed to. That's also going to contribute to having the swelling and the puffy eyes and the congestion and things like that, because if your body can't get rid of it through your bowel movements where it's supposed to go, then it's going to start trying to shove it out any other way that it can, whether that be through the skin, through acne, through runny eyes, through runny nose, through itchy throat, like it's through itchy ears. It's just going to be trying to get rid of that trash if it's not pumping out properly, like through the bowels. Okay. So going into diet just very briefly, because we could obviously spend a lot of time on diet. The standard American diet is very, very high in toxins. Most of what you get at the grocery store is food-like products that we don't actually know how to digest, and a lot of these actually decrease your digestion efficiency, because when your body's working so hard to break down foreign products, it gets exhausted, for lack of a better term. And most people eat all the common food allergies, which are going to be like dairy, corn, wheat, soy, eggs, and peanuts. These are like probably the most common allergies because they're the most commonly eaten foods. So your body's going to form more antibodies to things that you eat more frequently. So the thing is going back to like a leaky gut situation. Let's say that I eat dairy, and dairy has, lactose. That's very difficult for your body to digest. So typically, in a very optimally functioning person, lactose will be broken down into its components, and then they don't have a bad reaction for the rest of the way through the intestines. And then you have maybe somebody else like me that doesn't break it down as well. So then that lactose actually keeps going through the gut. It actually feeds bad bacteria. The bad bacteria make more toxic byproducts, which kind of inflames your bowels even more. And then when your bowels get inflamed, a lot of these dairy proteins like casein are going to get into the bloodstream. And then the bloodstream is going, there's not supposed to be food products here. So it's going to start attacking it and making those IgE, IgG antibodies like we talked about earlier. So that's kind of how poor digestion or eating food allergies or undigested food can contribute to more and more and more allergy symptoms. So let's skip that one. Yeah, I just thought this is like an important point, is that today more than like 95% of all chronic disease is caused by food choice, toxic food ingredients, nutritional deficiencies, and lack of physical exercise. So if you add the more things that you can address on this list, the better off you're going to be, and it is going to help your allergies as well, I promise you, because I don't remember the last time I took a Benadryl or a Claritin, and I attribute that mostly to getting adjusted and changing my diet. Okay, so some things that you can do to help your digestion and help increase your stomach acid so that you can better break down histamine is chew your food as much as possible. The more you chew, the more enzymes your body's going to create. The slower you eat, the more enzymes and digestive acids your body's going to make. Eating smaller meals so that way everything is being fully digested. Eat protein first and then carbohydrates, because carbohydrates are actually going to inhibit your body's normal hydrochloric acid systems. So there's a few lifestyle changes that can help you digest histamine more. So a few things that are good for modulating your immune system, a few nutrients, if you will. So omega-3s, vitamins A, D, and E, and things like turmeric and resveratrol are going to be probably the top supplements for modulating your immune system. And I mean, I will say that I've taken a lot of these intermittently. I never noticed that like one of those drastically changed my allergy symptoms, but I do attribute fixing my digestion to drastically changing my allergy symptoms. So if I was going to focus on one thing, it would be making your digestion better, whether that's through taking digestive enzymes, taking hydrochloric acid, doing some of these exercises where you're like slowing down, eating smaller meals, chewing a lot, fixing any leaky gut symptoms that you might have. And then, yeah, really getting adjusted, because even just getting a chiropractic adjustment can directly influence your immune system. Your white blood cells even change within 30 seconds after a chiropractic adjustment. So that can really, really help with your immune system, and it can also really help with your digestion, because if you have your stomach all jammed up into your diaphragm and up near your spine, you're not going to be digesting things as well. Whereas if you get adjusted and everything's able to relax and function properly, you're actually going to create more hydrochloric acid and be able to digest things better. And that is something I know myself and my sisters have directly noticed before and after adjustments before. Especially if you go see a chiropractor that focuses on treating the visceral system, so treating organs and things like that, as well as the musculoskeletal issues. Okay, so anytime I talk about modulating the immune system, we're going to be talking about decreasing inflammation, because anytime you decrease inflammation, your inflammatory load, it's going to help your immune system function better. So anti-inflammatory diets, what kind of is consistent with all of them is that they're very, very high in vegetables, high in healthy fats. So a lot of plant fat, things like coconut, avocado, nut oils, even eggs can be very beneficial as long as it's not an allergy food for you, obviously. So things that are going to kind of throw the immune system for a loop is going to be things like processed grains, most dairy, high sugar, starchy foods, like I'm talking white potatoes, potato chips, things of that nature, and just really any kind of processed foods and alcohol. Okay, so this is kind of something that I know a lot of people have probably considered, is like, why do like bee sting allergies get worse with age? Like everybody always says like, oh, you know, I've always had anaphylactic things to bees, but every time I get stung, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. So I'm going to propose to you that most people's get worse with age because your toxic load increases with age if you're not keeping it under control. So let's say like the water that you drink has some toxin in it. Okay, when you're 20, your body might be able to filter out that toxin and dispose of it very, very well. But as you're exposed to that repeatedly throughout your life, you know, by the time that you're 80 and you get stung by a bee, you're going to be way worse because that toxic load in your system is way, way higher. So going back to my original graph with the green line and the red line, you really have to just try to keep your toxic load as low as possible with whatever factors you can control at the time. You know, like there's a lot of factors that are more controllable and factors that are less controllable. Your food that goes in your mouth is probably the most controllable factor. You can't control the fact that the trees are pollinating at that time of year. You know, you can't control always what's happening with your life or your family or your house. Control what puts in your mouth, and that's really the easiest thing to decrease your toxic load. Okay. So yeah, so the answer to why the bee sting gets worse with age is the immune system and inflammation. A lot of times as you age, you have worse inflammation because things have built up in your body. You might be less active. And there's another level of where your body just sometimes reaches a point where it's like, I'm done. You know, I'm exhausted. You've been abusing me for so long, and now I'm just going to kind of tip over the edge to where I have way worse reactions, and you know, I'm not going to bounce back as easily for you because it's just tired of being abused. So what you can do is eat an anti-inflammatory diet, really try to control your stress levels, whether that means you need to add like a meditation to your day or figure out some kind of rewarding group activity that really helps you kind of zen down during the day. Anything like that is going to be tremendously helpful with modulating your immune system. So this kind of like sums up a lot of the things that I've said, but with more scientific words. So like I said, with nutrition, just like this says, modulate your leptin levels. So leptins are some things that's found in mostly things like grains and beans. So if you want to decrease your leptin levels, eat less grains and beans, which is kind of what I said with the anti-inflammatory diet slide earlier. Increasing things like omega-3s, like it says on here, caloric restriction. So that doesn't mean that you have to like go on a diet. That just means don't overeat. Linoleic acid is like another healthy fat. Controlling your hormones. So controlling insulin is another word for controlling blood sugar. Increasing your vitamin D, modulating your exercise. So some exercise helps to boost your immune system. Intense exercise that's over-exercising actually suppresses your immune system and makes you worse. So obviously the amount of exercise that each person can handle is going to be different. But if you start noticing that when you go on a diet and you're trying to lose weight and you're like really increasing your exercise, and then all of a sudden you start getting sick all the time, or you just feel kind of bleh, it might be because you're over-exercising and you're wrecking your immune system in the process. So those are a lot of the lifestyle factors that you can consider for helping out your immune system. Okay. Yeah, so this is just a nice picture to kind of sum up what I said earlier about the liver. So histamine is also broken down in the liver besides the gut. So as you can see, there's a ton of things that we do in our everyday life that really stresses out our liver. So anytime you can minimize a lot of these things, it's going to help your liver perform better. Or even if you have to do some kind of week-long or maybe 3-week-long liver detox kind of program, it might be very beneficial for your ability to clear things out and really increase your ability to handle more allergies. So your times during seasonal allergies will not be as bad if your liver is performing better. So prescription medications is really the number one thing I think that kind of wrecks the liver, because the way that prescriptions work for the most part is that they overwhelm the liver in order to get into the bloodstream, because normally the liver would clear out anything coming from the gut that it doesn't want in the body. So usually prescription medications falls under that category. The body doesn't want it in the bloodstream, so the liver clears it out. So they have to prescribe medications at a dose that actually overwhelms the liver's ability to clear it out in order for it to get to the bloodstream, if that makes sense. So if you want to think of it as if one molecule of a medicine goes into the liver is going to say, oh, not letting you through, we're going to detox you out. And then so maybe you put in 5 and the body says, nope, you're not coming in, we're going to detox you out. And so the doctor is going to keep increasing that dose, and then until you say you get to 20, and then the liver says, well, my capacity to clear it out was only at 15, and you put me at 20, so now 5 are going to get into the bloodstream, which is great for you because now you're going to feel the effects of the prescription medication that they put you on. Unfortunately, it's at the expense of your liver, because now your liver is super busy trying to get out this 20 molecules of the medication, and then it can't work on all of these other factors that are also going into it on a daily basis. Okay, so going on a different tangent completely, some foods are much higher in histamine producing capabilities than others. Unfortunately, usually anything that has yeast in it also produces more histamine. So that's going to be anything from fermented foods. So fermented foods can go all the way from the sauerkraut, cheese, yogurt, cottage cheese, kefir, vinegar, alcohol, and a lot of canned goods. So basically, I would say if you're going to avoid one thing during allergy season, it would be fermented foods. Hate to break it to you, because I know most of them are delicious. And evolutionarily speaking, we've all become addicted to most of them. But those are going to be things that are really going to increase your histamine load. And if you're going to go on a binge with different histamine containing foods, I would definitely take more digestive enzymes on those days, and it'll help you tremendously. Okay. So I've already gone through those actually. Yeah, so this is just kind of a synopsis on different ways that I would go about. This is the program that I did in order to help heal my leaky gut and help my allergies. So I healed my gut using a lot of digestive enzymes. L-glutamine is just one amino acid that can really help. Different probiotics, anti-inflammatory diet, as I already stated for you guys. And then you can support the liver with milk thistle, artichoke leaf, wasabi, and sarsaparilla. But most liver detox programs will incorporate all of those. But my general rule is get the digestion working before you move into the liver detox, because if you clear out your liver but your digestion is still junk, then you pretty much just wasted money on the liver detox, because you're still going to be trashing your liver with stuff coming out of your gut if it's not being digested properly. Okay, so this is just a picture for you guys to kind of show where there's a lot of lymph in your body. So as you guys can probably see, there's a ton of it around your armpits, around your neck, in your face, and in your groin. So that's why a lot of times those are places that are very, very tender when you're either sick or maybe when allergy season is very, very high. And so these are also very, very interconnected with your nervous system tissue as well as your muscular system. So that's why things like exercise can at least temporarily help you with congestion, because it helps the junk move through these vessels, okay? The chiropractic adjustment also helps things move through these vessels so that it's not just sitting there accumulating in your face and in your nose and making you miserable. So here's the number one way to know if you have lymph drainage problems that are probably muscular or chiropractic related is if the only way that you can fall asleep at night or breathe out of your nose is to put your arms over your head. So by putting your arms over your head, you're actually opening up a lot of those lymph ducts to help your body drain. So getting a chiropractic adjustment can kind of, let's say, put your arms over your head for you, if you will, because it's going to help your body pump and drain stuff a lot easier without you having to be like this all the time. And there are some lymph drainage kind of massage techniques that you can do at home. So this is going to be kind of massaging things away from your nose down towards your neck, and then from your neck down towards your armpits. So if you guys can see me in the picture, it's going to be like right here. So if you just kind of grind this out when you're super congested, it'll actually help the lymph flow out of your face. Okay, I was going to do essential oils. So essential oils, basically what you can do is make your own like Vicks Vapo Rub with essential oils. I didn't write it down on here, but you can use just coconut oil and then add things such as like peppermint, eucalyptus, and lavender, and then maybe tea tree oil would be like a good combination to kind of make your own Vicks vapor oil. So let me unmute you guys. So that was kind of a very quick breeze through. Do you guys have any questions off the top of your head?
Oh, so since I don't live close to you, or is maybe looking for a chiropractor down here in North Carolina, is there a certain chiropractic theory that I would want to look for?
Yeah, so I would go to a website. iCAK.com, and they should have like a find your chiropractor button on it. So that's International College of Applied Kinesiology is the website that it should take you to. And most of those people practice like I do, so they should be able to help you out a lot with lymph drainage and things like that. Anything else? Let's see.